So you don't have to flip back to the front page of your packet. I need you guys to listen. So you don't have to flip back to the front page of your packet. There's a bunch of your formulas over here that you might need to know. And then this reminds you at the top how you label the sides of your 45, 45, 90 triangle and your 30, 60, 90 triangle in case you forgot. Pythagorean theorem, we practiced that yesterday, and most of you are pretty good with that. Okay, let's look at number 1. What shape do I have going on with number 1? It is a triangle. Okay. If I want to find area of a triangle, what's my formula? Good. Base times height divided by 2. I'm going to go ahead and just write that down. So let's look at it. Do we know the base? What's the base? The base is 9. This is the entire base of the triangle, so I know the base is 9. Do I know the height of my triangle?
Yes.
Well, just looking, I know, but just looking? No, so I'm going to come back to that, and then I'll divide by 2. Okay, so Austin, you say the height is what? 4, and that's because you spotted a what?
3, 4, 5.
A 3, 4, 5 triangle. Now, if you don't realize that this is a 3, 4, 5 triangle, then you could always do 3 squared plus x squared equals 5 squared. But I want you guys to spot those 3, 4, 5 triangles to save you some work. Okay? So is everybody okay knowing that the height's 4 without us actually doing Pythagorean theorem?
Yes.
Okay, so the height is 4. Okay, take a second and calculate that for me. 9 times 4 divided by 2. What'd you say? 18. Can we practice units for a second? What would the units say?
18 feet squared.
18 feet squared. Area is always in square units. Inches squared, meters squared, feet squared. Okay, perimeter. This is the distance around an object. It's this side plus this side plus this side. Do I know all 3 sides?
No.
No. So I need to focus and figure out this side right over here. I need you guys to stop talking in the corner. So what could I do to figure out the length of this side? Pythagorean theorem. This doesn't look like one of the special ones I know. So what would it look like if I needed to figure out that length right there?
4 squared plus 6 squared plus x squared.
Good. 4 squared plus 6 squared equals x squared. Okay, let's go ahead and work that out. What do you get if you take 4 squared plus 6 squared? 52. Let's just go ahead and round to the nearest tenth. I'm going to square root both sides. What do you get if you take the square root of 52 and round to the nearest tenth?
7.5.
7.2.
Oh, yeah.
7.2.
Yeah, 7.2. Okay, so this side is approximately 7.2.
Because no, I'll answer.
Okay, so if I want to know perimeter, Colton C., can you tell me, if I want to know perimeter, what am I going to add together?
7.2, 5, 3, 6.
Okay, I'm going to add the 7.2, the 5, the 3, and the 6. What do we get if we add the 7.2 to the 5, to the 3, to the 6? 21.2? What would the units be on this? Feet. Okay, so perimeter is 21.2 feet. Area is 18 feet squared. Okay, that's basically like what we've been doing the last few days. We had to revisit Pythagorean theorem there. Okay, this next one, though, is a little different. What shape does number 2 look like?
A square.
It looks like a square. You know all 4 sides are congruent, and that's a 90-degree angle. So this is a square. I'm just going to go ahead and write it down for a second. We do have a square here. So I'm going to ask you guys, do you like this formula for area of a square, s squared, or do you like length times width better? Okay, you're happier with length times width? So it doesn't matter. You can either do s squared, or we can do length times width. So let's see here. Do I know what these sides are?
Mm-hmm.
So I need to figure something out. What do you know about this little triangle right here?
45, 45.
It's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Remember, if these 2 sides are congruent, I know the angles across from them are congruent. And if this one's already 90, these have to add to be the other 90. And if they're each the same, they're both 45 degrees. Are you guys okay with that? Okay, let's practice labeling. Across from the 45, what do you label with? X. And across from the other 45, I'd put an X also, but because I don't have much room, I'm not going to do it. What do you put across from the 90?
X.
Times 2.
X square root of 2. And if you can't remember, they're right here on the page for you. Okay, because there is already a number there, I need to put equals x square root of 2. So if you already have a number there, you need to set it equal to whatever that's supposed to be. Okay, my problem is I need to solve for x. How can I get rid of that square root of 2? Do you remember?
You need to multiply by. So it will be.
I will multiply in a minute, but right now I need to get x by itself. How do I get x by itself? No, it's nothing weird.
Divided by square root of 2.
Yeah, I just need to divide both sides by square root of 2. We haven't got to the weird thing yet. So everybody, I'm good that you want to get rid of multiplication, so you divide? Okay, so right here, I'm going to write what I just found. I got x to equal 4 divided by square root of 2. So now Austin's saying, now I want to do that weird thing I used to say. That weird thing I used to say was fufu, fancy form of 1. So you can't ever have a radical in the denominator, so to get rid of it, I multiply by whatever's down there over itself. It's been a while since we've done that. This is our fancy form of 1, which I called our fufu. What do you get if you multiply straight across, straight across?
5 point.
Well, no. Let's practice in radical form for right now. 4 times square root of 2 is 4 square root of 2. What's square root of 2 times square root of 2?
4.
Square root of 4, but what's square root of 4?
2.
Just a 2. Do you remember when we multiply by 2 of the same thing? Shoop, out it comes. Okay, I want to practice simplifying our radicals as much as possible. What is 4 over 2 reduced to be?
2.
2. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then I just recopy the square root of 2. Okay, so that's what I get for my x. So this guy that says he's x, how long is he?
2.
It's 2 square root of 2. That's what we just found. We just found x to be 2 square root of 2. So right here where little x is, I know that it's 2 square root of 2. Okay, because it's a square, what do you know about all your sides? All the sides are the same. So if my length is 2 square root of 2, what's my width?
2 square root of 2.
2 square root of 2. Now I want to multiply those together. And I want to try to do this without a calculator. First we multiply our outside numbers.
4.
What's 2 times 2?
4.
4. Then I'm going to multiply my 2 square roots together. What is square root of 2 times square root of 2?
2.
Just a 2, right? And what's 4 times 2? 8. So I want you to try to do that as much as possible without a calculator when we're working with the 30-60-90s and the 45-45-90s. Okay, perimeter. For perimeter, I can add up all 4 sides. Or what's a shorter way than going 2 square root of 2 plus 2 square root of 2 plus 2 square root of 2 plus 4 times 2 square root of 2. And don't use a calculator. What would that give you?
8 square root of 2.
8 square root of 2. I know that this is messy, but that's what you would get, is 8 square root of 2. Don't need to make it bigger. Low. I won't take it personally, Autumn. Okay, so sometimes I'm going to have us round, sometimes I'm not. I just wanted to practice our radical practice here. So it just depends on my mood what I want you guys to do. So I'll try to let you know for certain when you're doing a homework assignment or when you're doing a quiz. But as much as possible on the 30, 60, 90s and 45, 45, 90s, I want to practice our radical form, our simplest radical form. Okay, let's look at number 3. What shape does number 3 look like? A rectangle. How do I find area of a rectangle? Length times width. Okay, so let's look. Do I know my length and my width? No, I do not. Okay, what do you notice we have going on right here?
30, 60, 90.
We have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Okay, up above it tells you how to label it in case you forget. Across from the 30, what do we label with?
X square root of 3. Or X.
Across from the 30 is x. Across from the 60 is what?
X squared.
X square root of 3. And across from the 90? 2x. Because there's already a number there, put equals 2x. So if you remember how to do this from earlier in the year, this is going to be easy. If you don't remember how to do this from earlier in the year, then this is still going to be complicated. How do I get x by itself?
Well, you divide it by 2.
I divide both sides by 2, which means x is what? 8. Okay, once I know little x is 8, what is this x down here? 8. And what is this side over here? 8 square root of 3. Okay, let's just keep this in radical form for right now. What would I multiply together for length times width? What's my length?
8 times 8 square root of 3.
8 times 8 square root of 3. Let's keep it in radical form. What do you think that would be?
64 square root of 3.
64 square root of 3. You multiply the 8 and the 8 because they're both on the outside, and then the square root of 3, it just tags behind. Okay, perimeter, I add up all my sides, or there is a special formula for this. Do you remember?
2L plus 2Y.
2L plus 2 what?
2W.
Yeah. Did you say I?
No, I said 2W.
Did you?
Certainly.
I probably did because I can't hear. I'm having like ear infection issues.
Oh
my gosh, no, he said 2L plus 2Y.
Y? Okay. I knew it was a Y or an I. I feel like my head's in a tunnel. Okay, so I'm going to take 2 times the length, and it doesn't matter which one you call the length. I'm going to go 8 square root of 3. Plus 2 times the width, I'm going to call that 8. But you could have the 8 square root of 3 and the 8 turned around. It doesn't matter. What do you get if you take 2 times 8 square root of 3?
16 square root of 3.
16 square root of 3. And what do you get if you take 2 times 8? 16. That's as good as it gets unless we use the calculator. So for right now, on our 30, 60, 90s and our 45, 45, 90s, I'm going to have us just practice simplest radical form. And I can't get any simpler than that unless I use the calculator to give me decimals. Okay, let's go down to number 5. What shape is number 5? A trapezoid. Let's write down our formula for area of a trapezoid. Look up above if you don't know it.
1 plus base 2 times height divided by 2.
Yeah, so it's height times base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2. So let's look. Do I know my bases?
8 and 14.
8 and 14 are my bases. Do I know my height?
No.
Okay, that's what I need to work on. Okay, so I'm going to drop this thing down called an altitude. An altitude is just going to represent the height of the trapezoid. I'm going to go ahead and call that, let's call it H, so we don't get confused here in a minute when I start putting in our X's. So I'm going to try to figure out my height. And looking at this triangle, what kind of a triangle do we have here?
45, 45, 90.
A 45, 45, 90. Across from the 45, what do we mark? What do we label it with? X. Okay, across from the other 45 will be X. And across from the 90?
X square root of 2.
X squared root of 2. Because there's already a number there, put equals X square root of 2. Okay, my goal is to get X by itself. I don't want to use calculators. I want to do all of this in simplest radical form. Tristan, can you tell me, to get X by itself, what would I do? Tristan, you don't have to consult with Andrew. You could actually just try to talk to me here. If I want to get X by itself, I want to get rid of the square root of 2. Do you know how I can get rid of it?
Oh, that's probably.
Okay, let's look back up at this problem. Over here, when I had X square root of 2, what did I do to get rid of that square root of 2? I what? Well, you can see it right here. Right in this problem, when I had X square root of 2, what did I do to get rid of that square root of 2? I divided by square root of 2. That's how you undo multiplication, is by dividing. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. If I want to get rid of this multiplication, I'm going to divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by square root of 2. And then that leaves me X equals 10 over square root of 2. This is when I do my, what do I call it? Foo-foo! Fancy form of 1, which is square root of 2 over square root of 2. Multiply, straight across, straight across. What's that give you?
A lot.
What's 10 times square root of 2?
10 square root of 2.
10 square root of 2. Okay, denominators. What's square root of 2 times square root of 2? Just a 2. Multiply by 2 of the same thing. Shoop, out it comes. Okay, I can reduce this 10 over 2. What is 10 over 2? So x is 5 square root of 2. So let's go back to my picture. Is x and the height the same thing?
Yes.
And we just found it to be what?
5 square root of 2.
Okay, so that's my height. So here I go. 5 square root of 2. Because the height is across from the 45, which we labeled as x. And as soon as we figured out that x was 5 square root of 2, I knew that that was 5 square root of 2. Okay, so going back to our formula, I know this is kind of tiny. The height is how much?
5 square root of 2.
5 square root of 2. Now let's go ahead and add our bases. Can you guys add your bases in your head? The bases are what and what? 8 and 14. What do you get if you add those bases?
You get 22.
22. And then I'm going to go ahead and divide by 2. Okay, I'm going to see if you can put that in the calculator. So I kept it in radical form for quite a while. Let's just practice the calculator right here just to make sure you guys can do it.
Well, I got 7. Can I say the answer that I got?
Yeah, what'd you get?
I got 77.8.
77.8. That looks good. So I have 5 square root of 2 times 22. And then I'm going to divide by 2 just to make sure that we can get the calculator to give us the right answer. Was everybody else able to get the 77.8?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to say about 77.8. Okay, let's go to perimeter. How do I find perimeter? Adam, you tell me. How do I find perimeter?
For
The 10th, 77.8.
alright,
There are a lot of you talking, and I know that when you get back in the groups, you want to talk, but I really need you to listen. You guys were very quiet yesterday, and hang on. You were very quiet yesterday in our little lesson, and I don't know if that's because you were in rows. When you're in groups, I know it makes you want to talk. I understand that. But when I'm trying to talk or I'm trying to get someone else to talk to me, I need to make sure that everybody can hear and know what's going on. Because I know when we were doing the 30, 60, 90 triangles and the 45, 45, 90 triangles, a lot of people did not have a clue what they were doing. So, months later, do you all of a sudden know what you're doing? That's the thing that concerns me. So when people were struggling a couple months ago with the 30, 60, 90s and the 45, 45, 90s, I would think those people would still be struggling today. If not, that's awesome. If you are struggling, you have to make sure that you can listen and pay attention. Adam, back to you. How do I find perimeter? I add all 4 sides. Do you know what my 4 sides are?
Well, they'd be 14,
14,
8,
8,
10,
10,
and 10.
and 10. So it's going to be the 8, the 14, the 10, and the 10. Okay, somebody tell me what that is.
42.
42.
Oh, you beat me to it.
Okay, let's flip the page. Okay, I want to go down to number 13. I'm skipping. Let's go down to number 13 for a minute. This one is different than all the others because it actually tells me the area. The other problems, I was figuring out the area, I was figuring out the perimeter. This one actually tells me the area. And then it wants to know something about FJ. So, before I do anything about FJ, I need to know a formula for area of, what shape is this? Yeah, it's a shape. That doesn't do me any good. What shape?
trapezoid.
It's a trapezoid. Number 13, the very bottom problem. Okay, can someone tell me the formula for area of a trapezoid?
Diagonal 1, diagonal 2. No.
Base 1 equals
Height.
times height.
Okay,
Base plus base.
yeah. And nobody should have to guess because the formulas are on the other side of this page and the formulas are on the front of your packet. Okay, so when it tells you the area is 52, where can I put the 52 in my formula?
As the 8.
So I'm going to put 52 where the A is. Now, let's take a moment and look at our picture. And do I know the height of this picture? No. Let's look. Do I know the bases of my picture? Okay, let's just go ahead and add these bases in our head because that's what I want to do. What do you get if you add the 2 bases?
10.
13. Are you okay with me doing that instead of writing 5 plus 8?
Yes.
Okay, and then I want to divide by 2. Since I don't know the h, I'm just going to leave it an h. And now I want to solve this problem. I could do this a variety of ways. You remember how we were making things proportions a while back? Let's do that. Let's pop that 52 over 1, and now I have a proportion. How do you solve proportions? Cross multiply. So what do you get if you take 2 times 52? 104. And what do you get if you take h times 13 times 1? H times 13, which I could write as 13h. Okay, what would I do to solve for h? Okay, so I'm going to divide both sides by 13. Can someone tell me what my height is? Okay, my height is 8. So I'm going to put that in my picture. The problem is, this isn't what the problem actually wants me to find. The problem actually wants me to find the length of fj, this guy right here. So does anybody know what this piece is right here? 3. If this whole bottom is 8, and I know that top part is 5, does everybody agree that that's a 3? Okay, so what could I do to figure out fj? This one, I don't know that those are 45 degrees. I don't know it. I can't assume it, and I don't know it. So this is just going to be Pythagorean theorem. So what would it look like? Good. 8 squared plus 3 squared equals x squared, or 3 squared plus 8 squared. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so take a moment and tell me what you get. And let's just round to the nearest tenth. $8.5? You didn't get that? So 8 squared plus 3 squared. So 8 squared plus 3 squared. And then I want to square root that. So square root of 73, 8.5. Do you know what you did? Yeah. Okay, and that is the length of fj, which is what they wanted. So that actually right there is the length of fj, and that's the answer. Okay, I'm going to have you guys try some for homework from this page. So on this page, I want you to try 7, 8, 11, and 12. On this page, I want you to try 7, 8, 11, and 12. 7, 8, 11, and 12. No, I'm going to have you do one more. On page 9, I want you to try number 4. So on page 9, I want you to try number 4. So we had 4, 7, 8, 11, 12. 4, 7, 8, 11, 12. So 5 problems. Let's see what you can do with those for tomorrow.